What's going on, everyone? Meteorologist Jonathan Kegas with you, and we are talking about the tropics still for the most part as we move through the middle of August. Looking pretty good, all things considered. We are watching one area by Texas that is really moving on shore on this Sunday morning, so development chance is pretty much out the window, but it is bringing some much-needed rain. We're going to talk all about that coming up in just a few minutes. Some of the other things we're going to get into, again, that Texas system as the heavy rain begins to move in from that tropical moisture that's surging through. And as we work our way deeper into the Atlantic, we're going to talk about how dust and dry air continues to dominate things, and that is helping to keep things in the tame realm for the short term. And then we're going to take a look at the next 10 days with some signals that this hurricane season may try to wake up in the short term. So again, at least into that week to 10 day and beyond stretch, we're going to look a little bit in the long range. So again, as mentioned, we're going to start with that system that is moving into Texas. And it doesn't have a name. It's not a depression. It looks a little spinny, if you will, as it brings some heavy rain into Corpus Christi and into parts of south central Texas. One thing I want to show you here, again, we always talk about tropical waves or waiting for the system itself to develop a center. Right now, this does not have a center. So you can look at that here. These green lines represent the wind direction. You see how it's kind of like an upside down U. It's just a little open wave. So that's what we call it, a wave, rather than if it had a defined center, something circular like a tropical storm, tropical depression, or hurricane. Again, to be considered tropical, it needs to be able to have a closed center at the surface. This does not have that, so therefore it's basically just tropical moisture surging in. Now, this is great news. A low-grade tropical entity, if you will, just tropical moisture surging into an area that desperately needs the rain. If you live in this area, you know what I'm talking about. Again, San Antonio into Dallas to the west of Houston in that at least extreme, in most of Texas, especially central and western Texas, into that exceptional drought category. And we're talking about several inches of rain. Now, we don't want too much rain at once, especially on dry ground. That could lead to runoff and some flooding, so we don't want it all at once. But certainly most of this rain in Texas is going to be beneficial. I suspect we will have some flooding, but nonetheless, where the heaviest rain is falling really from San Antonio into extreme southern Texas and eventually into eastern Mexico, big-time drought ongoing. So by and large, that rain is going to be extremely beneficial in Texas. Again, just don't want too much. We're going to take a broad look now at all of the areas in the tropics. And again, with that exception of the little flare-up of thunderstorms, again, this little tropical entity, and again, that quasi-quote-unquote center is working its way onshore. So basically, development chances for this one are zero, as it will continue to work its way in this direction, south of Houston, really impacting, again, Corpus Christi. The rest of the Gulf of Mexico, though, we are looking good, hardly a cloud in the sky, and that's really the same deal as we venture into the Caribbean. Cuba, we're looking good, into Jamaica, Kingston, what's going on? We are looking good. Central America, flare-up of thunderstorms on the west coast. Through South America, we have more storms in that part of the world. Otherwise, we're looking good. Puerto Rico, lots of sunshine coming your way. Same deal in most of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. A little bit of inclement weather into parts of the Leeward and Windward Islands, but otherwise, most of us are looking good, especially in the northern islands. Getting into Kingstown, that's where we could have a few showers, maybe a thunderstorm or two, but nothing organized. That is the key. Wider view now of the main development region, area between the Caribbean islands and Africa. A few little showers around the Cabo Verde Islands, but that is about it. That has been really the moral of the story for most of this hurricane season, thankfully. One of the main reasons why is because of the dust. We keep on talking about the dust, but it's really one of the main drivers and the main stories of this hurricane season. You see it again, prolific out in the middle of the tropical Atlantic. There's more dust over Florida. We had insane sunrises about 2 weeks ago, and then it was really helping to block out some of the sun. We had that big, thick haze over Florida. We are based out of Orlando. We have that dust prolific last week, and now it's moving into places like Louisiana, like North Texas, or at least the Gulf Coast of Texas. But it is very thick again, getting back into the central Atlantic. It is thick again, another round of dust working its way to the Cabo Verde Islands. It's why, again, that big disturbance, or that highlighted disturbance from last episode of Tropics Watch, from last week, was really no more. It gobbled it right up. More dust working off of the northern side of the African continent. I want to show you this. We are going to look into the future, and I'm going to show you a bunch of different things into the future. I show this a lot about when we're focused on one area to see if there's going to be development potential. This is scientifically known as vorticity, or the low level spin in the atmosphere. So basically what you're looking at on this chart, and I want you to focus on the red areas and anything that can tightly consolidate into one little ball here. So we're going to go forward in time, and again, this is August 15th through the middle here of the month of August. This is August 18th. The European model still not picking up on anything. Okay, so again, good news all around. Notice that little guy working off of Africa. So it's hinting at there could be another pretty juicy wave coming off Sahara Desert region. There's a lot of dust there, as we talked about, so that one likely not going to have a chance. But you see this guy here. So this is as we get towards 10 days from now, really towards the end of this period. August 24th, there's a pretty little beefy tropical wave. That one will bear watching. The American GFS model kind of paints the same picture here. Little spiral, and then a decently juicy wave coming off. Before I show you the next thing, the Ensemble forecast, one of the things we always talk about, the dust is great to have out there in terms of limiting tropical development. It's not the end-all, be-all. All as it takes is one juicy wave moving off of Africa to kind of scour out and moisten up the atmosphere for the next wave. So kind of that first wave, that first big wave we see in August may take one for the team, so to speak, for the next waves to come to have a better opportunity to develop. I want to show you another perspective here. This is going to be the Ensemble forecast. And basically what an ensemble is, it is a model with a bunch of members, and there's different initial conditions put into those members. So you can kind of gauge, okay, if the atmosphere is being sampled like this, because we don't have a complete sampling of the atmosphere. So this is where, in a situation like this, where you're looking to see if there's going to be an uptick, or if the atmosphere is going to become conducive for development, you're going to want to look at ensembles rather than the main model, which I just showed you. But I wanted to show that both of those are hinting at something at about 10 days from now to get going. That looks like that's when we're really going to have large-scale things begin to change, and I'm going to show you that in just a couple of minutes, so stick around. Here's the ensemble members, though. You see all these L's. So basically, again, these are not all tropical systems here, not all these L's. These are basically, you're looking for the clusters of L's. So there's one right here, and then there's another one. That's that bigger wave that I showed you on the European. These are the European ensembles. So there you go right there. Similar story on the GFS, not as strong of a signature, but notice there are a bunch of clusters of L's, especially as we get into that same time frame. Again, that time frame I just showed you was through the 24th. And that seems to be about the time that that switch might come on. I show you guys this a lot. This is basically the rising motion where you need air to rise to get thunderstorm activity. When air sinks, thunderstorms dissipate. So as we stand right now through the next week, and there's a lot of mumbo jumbo going on this map. Notice we have the brown here over most of the United States, over most of the Caribbean, and then the first really western 2/3 of the Atlantic into the Pacific. So finally, the Pacific season might shut down. That's been going gangbusters since its start back in the middle of May. Note where the green is. It's over Africa. Okay? So that's the one main thing that we look for this time of the year. That means that we're likely going to have enhanced thunderstorm activity moving off the African continent. Africa continues over here again. We're looking at the globe on a flat surface. So there's the rest of Africa, and that green indicating the rising motion over Africa. Anyway, as we go forward into the future, notice we have kind of a surge of that anomaly of rising motion move deeper into the tropical Atlantic through that main development region. So that really starts to get your antennas should be up. So as we get it forward into August 27th, we showed you again that we have a couple of different models hinting at an uptick in development as we get towards the 24th, 25th, that last week of August. Anytime a computer forecast does that, you've heard me preach before about people just slapping models on social media and that being extremely inappropriate. And without context, it means nothing. Well, here's the context. If you have a couple of models hinting at something, number one, okay, you have something. But then if you can find the reason why that particular model or models are spitting out that solution, then you're really onto something. And on a large scale, you have rising motion really starting to increase. So as we get towards that last week of August, and now through the first week of September, here we are through September 3rd, we still have a ton of green over Africa. That means enhanced thunderstorm activity. So the waves coming off of Africa are likely going to be bigger, juicier, beefier to fight off that dust that's there. And again, as we get climatologically deeper towards the peak of hurricane season, that dust tends to become less prolific out there. It's most prolific in June and July. So there we go with more green there, indicating more thunderstorm activity over Africa. So the moral of the story is that just because it's been quiet, unfortunately, this hurricane season isn't over just yet. And on the contrary, even in very quiet years, we're approaching the 30th anniversary of Hurricane Andrew impacting South Florida. Remember, the A storm did not get named. Of course, that was Andrew until August. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can get, it only takes one. How many times have you heard that? It only takes one. This is a situation where the switch looks like it's going to flip, and it could only take one. There is a lot of untapped heat potential in the Atlantic. One of the things with an active season is that, okay, you can churn up some cooler water with these storms that continue. But when you get into a situation like this where there hasn't been a lot of storms and there is a lot of untapped potential on that front, that's where you start to see some things. We're looking at the tropical frequency. I'll end with this to kind of, you are here, and that yellow line going up and down is where we are in the hurricane season, as I have arrows everywhere. The peak is September 10th. So we are about a month away from the peak of hurricane season. Really, the heart of the season is still to come. The heart of the season is late August through October. And that's what we have to come. Also, as there is a little bit of showing you here some of the negative side of this. I'll end. I said I was going to end, but I'm going to re-end on a positive note. On that same deal, we could end up having an abrupt end to the hurricane season, at least the peak of the season. We'll likely see another uptick again in October. But this is late September 24th. Look at all that orange and brown. That means that we're going to have large-scale features coming into play that will promote sinking air through most of Africa and most of the Atlantic basin, which hopefully will shut down the Cabo Verde season, which are those storms rolling off of Africa, really as we get beyond the peak of hurricane season. So hopefully this is going to be short-lived. Something, though, that we are going to be watching, again, really end of August 24th, give or take, through probably that month of September, could start to really flip that on switch of the 2022 hurricane season. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, this has been Tropics Watch. If you don't already subscribe to this channel, we would love if you hit that subscribe button and the alert bell. Anytime we post new content, you're going to get an update. And again, we're watching everything in the tropics closely, breaking down everything piece by piece, one step at a time. Again, it's been quiet, but I will leave you with that cliche. It only takes one. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you next week.